to Code for Couples. I am Cindy Doyle, your host, and today I am excited to have a guest on with me. You know, one of the struggles sometimes that we have as first responder couples is the distance that we have as couples, like the fact that there's shift work going on, and so one person is working, the other one's asleep, or vice versa. The emotional distance that we sometimes have, the fallout from the hypervigilance cycle, that magic armchair that we've talked about so much. And sometimes, you know, you try to reach out to your first responder by text message or calling, and they just don't respond. And then you start getting the worry monster going on in your head. Well, today I'm going to talk about things from a different angle. I actually thought about doing this on my own, but then I have a friend who is an expert in this area, and we are going to talk about attachment and how our attachments can affect our relationships. So stick with me on this. Today I have my friend, Dr. Jodie Elder, in the house on the podcast. She is a licensed professional counselor, a licensed marriage and family therapist. She owns her own speaking and private practice gig. And she is also an adjunct faculty at Southern Methodist University here in Dallas. So thank you so much, Jodie, for joining me. If you saw her right now, she is blushing and looking at me and going, Cindy Doyle, what are you doing? She is an awesome person. Jodie, thank you so much for coming on.
Well, I have to say hey to everybody. And, you know, Cindy, one of the hallmarks of a good friend is they are your biggest cheerleaders. And so obviously from her introduction of me, we are great friends. It's my pleasure to share any info that might be helpful. So I'm just glad to be here. Thanks for asking me, Cindy.
So part of this started because Jodie and I were talking. Jodie started doing some workshops, and she was talking about attachment stuff. And I was talking to her about insecure attachment. I was kind of talking about like what I hear as far as first responder spouses and how it can bring up either fear or kind of disconnection in our lives. And so we were having a conversation, and I just thought that it was really amazing. You were talking about that the connection that we have is really, really critical to some of our survival.
Absolutely. I think we are neurologically built for connection with other people. And we thrive when our connections with other people, our primary attachment figures, meaning our spouses, our parents, whoever that might be in our lives, when those connections are strong, we are happier and healthier, literally, physically healthier. Our immune system functions suppressed when we have trouble in our connections with others. We're more likely to get sick when we're in a stressful marriage. That's a true, real thing. So our bodies feel it when our connection is frazzled or frayed or lost or full of tension with the people that we love. So it's absolutely essential. It's not icing on the cake. It is an essential element in our survival.
Wow. So this isn't something, I like that you said that it's not icing on the cake. It's essential, that this is a necessary part of who we are as human beings to have this connection.
Absolutely. They've actually done studies where somebody was subjected to some kind of like slight pain in part of the experiment, and then they would rate the level of pain. And if they were holding the hand of someone they loved, they rated the pain lower. Totally. The connection made such a difference.
Wow. I know one of the old studies that we've heard about over and over and over again. And if you haven't taken Psychology 101, you might not know this, but if you've taken Psychology 101, you've probably heard this before in regard to connection, was the study that had to do with, I want to say that they were Russian orphans, but the orphans that were not picked up, and the death rate that came from that. And so there's all kinds of research that backs not only you're saying like our need for that, but you're talking about pain, you're talking about our physical health as well as our emotional health.
Absolutely. It's called failure to thrive in those infants. And when they do not have a physical touch or connection with another person, you can feed them, you can give them water, but without a physical connection and emotional nurturing, they did not survive. And we are biologically wired to protest any disconnection with our loved ones.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Good God, like my mind just went crazy there, because then it's like, oh, now I know we're going to talk about this, but that makes sense because, like, when I feel nervous about the connection with my husband, my whole fight or flight system goes off. And I've gotten better with it over the years, but part of it is like the stories that I tell myself, like, and some of those stories are from my childhood and my family history. But yeah, my whole nervous system is like, wait, where are you going? Where are you going?
Yes.
And I've learned to sit on my hands sometimes, but yeah, I can get what you're saying. Like, our whole system is set up to protest the disconnection. That makes so much sense.
That's absolutely what happens. And typically people have one of two reactions to any threat to their attachment. The first reaction is what you talked about, which is, hey, I'm here. Don't you see me? Connect with me. I'm here. And that can come across as criticism. Like, you're never around. Why don't you ever answer my texts? But really, that is a protest. That is a yearning for connection. It's received as criticism.
Yeah.
Right? That's the demand response of, hey, I need you to see me. I need you to hear me. I need you to reach and connect with me. The other response is what we call withdrawal.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel safe right now because I feel disconnected from you, or I feel criticized by you, and I'm going to self-protect by shutting down and withdrawing from you. Right? It only makes that when these primal reactions in our brain are triggered, we respond in these very primal ways of, hey, see me, I need you, or go away, you're scaring me. Yeah.
Wow. So when I think of, when you were talking about the demand part, one of my complaints about me, and I talk about sometimes, is that, oh, sorry, Whitney, let me back up and not include his first name. So when you were talking about the demand part, one of the first things I think about is when my husband would leave, and when he would come home and he'd be talking about the job, or like checking the blotter, or checking in with work. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's always the job. Can't you just shut it off? And I wouldn't scream, but I probably naggy. And so that's one of those demands. I would imagine, like, some people are louder than others when you have that demand. And I tell my clients a lot of times when I'm working with couples, it's like, many times we start off with requests, and by the end, when those requests aren't met, I'm yelling at you. And so if the requests aren't heard, people get louder or shut down. Because I can also think of times when, or couples really, even in the field, where it's like, they might be having sex, but they're not really talking. They're not, having that connection or that intimacy that they really need. And that's the withdrawal part. And so is that like a self-protection thing, like to yell out or to shut down?
I think they're both self-protection.
Okay.
They're both, I need connection with you, but I need a safe connection with you. And when I feel distance in our relationship, I don't feel safe. That's the demander. So I'm going to demand more connection because my anxiety level is going up. I think you hit the nail on the head when you said the word anxiety. Demanders have a lot of anxiety, right, about that loss of connection. Their main threat is when they sense distance and a lack of closeness. A withdrawer, their main threat is when they feel too much closeness. I'm not sure I can depend on someone in my life. This goes back to family. Like, you learn very core beliefs about closeness with others from the way that you're raised. And it doesn't matter who you're raised by, parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, whoever it is, they teach you whether connection is safe or not. They teach you how to handle strong emotions or not. And learn these lessons, and we come with these lessons to our relationships. And so we develop different types of attachment. Somebody who has a secure attachment says, hey, no, I feel this distance, but I really know you love me. And we're good. You're just stressed right now. And I can deal with that anxiety, right? So let's say your partner comes home from work. He's preoccupied with work. He's really stressed. You don't let your anxiety hijack your brain system, freak out, and start demanding so much that he crawls into a hole and says, when are you going to shut up? Absolutely. That is the demand withdrawal cycle that so many couples get caught up in. But if you're not in a secure place of attachment, you're either in a preoccupied attachment where that demand for that threat to closeness, that any kind of disconnect freaks you out and you start to approach, I need you. Or you're a dismissing type of attachment where you learn that feelings are not safe. You learn that connecting to others is not always safe. So when you feel any kind of criticism, you immediately shut down, withdraw, go into your turtle shell and go, I'll come out when you go away. And we're so stuck in that.
I may or may not be able to relate to that one. Yes.
Same here. Same here. Yes. Absolutely. I'll tell a story from when my husband and I were first married. I mean, I own this stuff because I've lived this stuff. He was very threatened by disconnection, and I was very threatened by conflict or any kind of, and I would shut down and withdraw.
Yes.
He would talk and talk and talk. And I would say, I'm done talking. Like, I can't do this right now. And he couldn't tolerate the disconnection. So he'd keep talking. One night at 2:30 in the morning in my pajamas, I grabbed my shoes and my purse, ran out the door, raced out of the parking lot and checked into a hotel, turned my phone off and had blissful rest.
Because he wouldn't stop talking.
He stopped talking. I woke up, turned my phone on and had like 65 missed calls because he was freaking out.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I mean, we were stuck in that demand withdrawal cycle and our therapist was like, what are you doing? You're destroying your connection. And so yeah, we had to learn how to build in a break.
Yeah.
He had to sit with his anxiety until I was able to come back and stay connected.
Yes. And it's interesting because thank you for that story and that example, because I know that's not easy to share. And it's, if anything, everybody out there, you just heard that, therapists go to counseling too, as well.
Yes, we do.
By the way. Yes, we do.
That's how we know it works.
That's how we know it works. And we fix ourselves because we're not geniuses. But I've been on both sides of that as far as the dismissing and the preoccupied. There's one more though, and I want to make sure we do that one before we go into it, which you had said that was fearful, I think, right?
Right. That one is called a fearful attachment. And that is a person who really yearns for that close connection, but somehow their core belief is that connection equals abandonment. So they and pull their partner in and then they go, oh my God, this is freaking me out. Get away. And they push them away. And their partner's going, what just happened? It's very confusing to be in relationship with someone who has a fearful type of attachment.
Yeah, I can understand that, especially when it's like, come, let me love you. And then I think of like burning down the bridge. Like, I'm going to be really like, I'm all in or I'm all out kind of a thing. And that's similar. I get the preoccupied and the dismissing for sure. I think I have graduated to mostly the secure one after 20 years, or 20, whatever. But I definitely can think about, and I see it when I'm looking in like Facebook groups, like I can see the fear. We have this layer of fear already of like what's going on as far as, what's going on the job, and which is different than we're talking in regard to attachment. And one of the things that I think of is the person that like, you're not texting me back. So now I'm nervous. So now I'm going to text you 47 times and then I'm going to call you 5 other times and I'm going to call dispatch and I'm going to find out where you are. And so that would be a preoccupied attachment. Is that right?
Absolutely. That's a beautiful illustration.
Okay.
Yeah. And it doesn't always end up escalating to that level, but just
absolutely.
That's a great example because anybody who's preoccupied style of attachment just has so much anxiety anytime there's lack of responsiveness or lack of connection. Absolutely.
When we're talking about trust, because trust is big in these relationships as well, because, I have stories about women, quote unquote, thanking my husband by showing them their tits, right? Or we also have badge bunnies, as we call them. And so where does, I know there's a trust aspect here, but does that also pull into attachment, that if I'm overly suspicious, that might also be part of my attachment?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, because, and it goes back to, I love that phrase you used earlier, which is the story I'm telling myself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a secure attachment person this is uncomfortable for me. I haven't heard from him in a while. I'm not enjoying this feeling, but I trust him. I look forward to checking in with him when he gets home. We have a good history together, right? And he's never done anything like this before. Or maybe he has and we worked through it, right?
So, a lot of self-soothing going on there is what I hear.
Total. Yes, absolutely. You're able to talk yourself down off the wall because you can manage those strong emotions.
Oh,
but
so hard sometimes.
So hard. Somebody with a preoccupied attachment, those stories just run wild in their head. I mean, there's most of the time, the reality of what we make up in our head is so much worse.
Oh.
I mean, stories we make up are so much worse than reality of what's actually happening. But that just gets our fight or flight system ramped up even more when we follow those rabbit trails and those crazy stories we're telling ourselves.
Yeah. Okay. That's really helpful. And I hope everybody is kind of understanding that this is just a part of the way our system works. It's not that there's something clinically wrong with you. This is just all of our systems. It's part of our fight or flight response. You also mentioned, like, part of this being the stories that we get growing up and how those connections were growing up. Like, if I was walking on eggshells, like maybe I did sometimes growing up, that in walking on those eggshells, that starts to form my attachment. And can I trust, or do I need to protect myself? So all of that comes with us into a relationship. It's not always considered when we're in these really intimate, close relationships. I think of Brene. You and I are both Brene fans, and
Absolutely.
Brene Brown. So in case y'all don't know, Brene Brown. But one of the things she says is one of the most vulnerable things you can do is love someone. Mm-hmm. And so this is why maybe this comes up in these relationships more so than in maybe just casual friendships.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because we're more invested in these relationships. And I think it's really important for us as partners and people in general to have a level of self-awareness of, wow, I am really reacting strongly to this. What just happened in me, and where is this coming from? Because it could have absolutely nothing to do with the current relationship you're in, and everything to do with an attachment trauma you had in previous relationships.
Yeah.
Right. So if you've had a partner cheat on you before, maybe not your current partner, you are hyper vigilant to anything that could, even in the slightest way, have any optic of cheating. But that has nothing to do with your current relationship or the reality of what's happening right now. It has everything to do with your limbic system, your attachment, fight, flight, or freeze, right, is triggered because of this past trauma. And we bring that with us. And our partners sometimes pay the price if we're not very conscious of it.
Yeah, you have to love my whole story.
Yeah.
Sometimes we struggle to love our own story. So,
absolutely.
Okay, so we now realize that, oh my gosh, I have this maybe preoccupied attachment, or gosh, I have this dismissing attachment. I'm not secure all the time. What do I do? How do I address this within my relationship? You also said something really important a minute ago, which was maybe thinking different about how our partner's approaching us as well. So maybe we can go two ways. How, as an individual, can I address that preoccupied or dismissing and move more towards something that's secure?
Well, I see two different answers to what you're asking. First, the first essential piece is managing your own stuff, which is absolutely an essential piece of the puzzle, which is recognizing, like I said, like, hey, I'm having a really strong emotion here. What just came up in me? what's happening right now? What am I feeling? Slowing it down instead of running away with letting the emotion run away with you, taking some deep breaths and going, wait, what just happened? And being self-aware. And then the other piece of it has to do with what you just said, which is our perception of our partner. So rather than saying, he doesn't love me anymore, look at him, he's so shut down. He's on his phone all the time, or he's on the TV all the time, or, you know, he's constantly checking dispatch or whatever it is. He must not love me. Maybe it's he doesn't feel safe right now.
Okay.
Maybe I've been anxious and naggy, and I'm contributing to.
Sorry, the pause was me doing like the mind blow thing while I'm sitting here talking to Jodie. Wow.
Because your partner has attachment needs. That is the root of all of their behavior. So if I say he and she because the woman is stereotypically the demander, and the man is typically the withdrawer. Because men have been socialized from very young that strong emotional expression is not acceptable unless it's anger. So they are more likely dismissers. Absolutely. So if you have this person who's dismissing or withdrawing, if you were to see that as an attachment need, he doesn't feel secure and safe in this relationship right now because I might be naggy, right? You can see, here's how I'm contributing to it. Here's how he's responding. It's not that he doesn't love me. It's that there's not a safe space with us right now.
Okay. Not always, right? What I would say is like sometimes people just want to numb out, right? But there is a thing. Numbing's hypervigilance, a magic hair thing, right? We talk about that. But yeah, so there is a like, okay, if he's not communicating with me, then, or she, right? It's like maybe there's something there. Maybe they're not feeling safe and secure. Do I then approach my partner and say, hey, you okay? Hey, tell me what's wrong. What's wrong?
Okay. I think this is what is important for changing this pattern. It's so destructive, this demand withdrawal pattern, because what happens is you have a demander and a withdrawer. And as that cycle repeats itself over and over again, you end up more and more distant from each other. And John Gottman, calls it the distance and isolation cascade, where you end up both kind of giving up and you're withdrawn, and your roommates, you're not partners anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So in order to change that pattern, the important thing is to have a conversation with your partner and say, I think this pattern is hijacking our relationship. And here's what I think happens. The more I seek connection with you, the more you withdraw, which then makes me demand connection with you more, which makes you withdraw more. Does that sound like that fits? And your partner's going to go, hell yeah, because I'm too, right? Then together you recognize how destructive the pattern is. So the enemy becomes the pattern, not your partner. And you can team up against this pattern together by giving it a name. Say, I don't know, here comes Hurricane Sandy. I feel it. I need you right now. And you're withdrawing. We're about to get sucked into this pattern, right? And recognize it, call it out. And then the steps that need to happen to stop it from happening. The steps that need to happen so that that pattern does not wreak havoc on your relationship is slow down. You might need to take a break. You might need to say, I need a break. Let's come back and talk about this in 20 minutes. And one of you goes for a run. The other one of you does some meditation, whatever works for you to soothe, as long as you're not ruminating and escalating the entire 20 minutes. So take that breather from each other and then come back and get vulnerable. And that's the scary, scary part of this, is you have to tap into these attachment needs that are not being met. So the demander can say, I feel really scared when I'm home, you're off doing or when you're away at work and you don't respond to me because I don't know what's happening with you. I feel like afraid that something happened. Maybe you got injured, shot, whatever, and that scares me. Or I feel alone and abandoned when you come home and you're physically here, but you're not emotionally present at all. And I need you so much. I miss you when you're away and I want to connect with you. And I realize you got a lot going on at work and it's hard to unpack all that, but I need to connect with you somehow. That's the real deal. That's the emotion. That's the attachment need. So speak those needs. Now, the converse side of that is the withdrawer might say, when I come home and I've had a long day and I've got so much that I'm carrying that I'm burdened with, and you come at me, I feel like I'm not enough.
Mm.
I'm not what you need. And I feel like I'm just not I'm not the right spouse for you, right? I'm not a husband. I can't meet your needs. I feel hopeless. I feel guilty, right? That I've been away. You've needed me this whole time. I feel smothered. I can't breathe when you're texting me 45 million times while I'm at work, right?
Mhm.
So talking through the attachment need and the real emotions underneath, rather than whatever the topic du jour might be,
Yeah.
is where the connection happens, where the healing happens between the two of you. And so I think the format, I mean, just a format, if it might be helpful, would be the trigger for my reaction was when this happened. On the surface, I probably showed frustration, annoyance, anger, whatever it is, but deep down I felt, and then you share the real attachment need, the real vulnerable feeling. What I longed for from you was, but the message I got about our bond or about me was that you experienced me as annoying or whatever. So if you
Yeah.
follow that format, that can be a way to kind of dig deeper with your partner and for them to really hear what's going on and see you and experience you differently. And then here's the other trick, is to respond with empathy to your partner. Really put yourself in their shoes. Say, I get it, and I didn't know you felt that way. And yes, of course I love you and I want to connect with you. I'm just tired when I get home. Reflect and validate their perspective and say, what is it that you need from me?
Mm.
And what they need. You may not always be able to give it. That does not mean the answer is always yes, but at least you have something to work with. So the main thing is just recognizing the pattern, slowing it down, teaming up against it, and getting vulnerable together. I think that's the terrifying answer. A lot of the destructive patterns we get stuck in.
I love that what you did there is made it the
Mhm.
enemy, if you will. And so now we are teaming up as a couple, and we do that well as first responder couples. Like as one of the things we do is we have each
Mhm.
other's backs. And it's
Yeah.
like, you're my ride or die. We're going to do this. And so, you know, I have your back. And so now we're going to team up and conquer this thing, this, I don't know, monster gremlin, Hurricane Sandy thing, whatever it is, that comes in and wreaks havoc in our relationship. And I like depersonalizing it from us and making it
Mhm.
something out here, a third thing in our relationship.
Well,
Um,
and I also like what you said earlier, which is the the demander and the withdrawer. Neither one of you are wrong.
right.
There's nothing wrong with you. You are responding in a very hardwired human way. So it's not that either one of you is right or wrong. And that, just recognizing that, can make a big difference in your perception of your partner. Is there just
And yourself.
and yourself. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, like instead of saying like I'm jacked up because
Uh,
I start psycho texting when I don't hear from my husband, right? Then I can go, oh, you know what? It's that stupid attachment thing. I need to go talk to him. You know,
yeah.
it's something different. Okay,
Right.
so first we're going to identify the pattern. This is what I was hearing is the solution.
Yes.
Identify the pattern. We have to slow our roll, and that
Yeah.
might mean that we have to take a break. We have to just get some fight or flight, calm that down. And
Mhm.
then the next part is that we then have to I also heard we have to get curious about what's going on with us. And you said that at another point, get curious about what's going on inside of us. What is this? What are my needs? What am I feeling? And sometimes that takes some time. Sometimes it takes some
Mhm.
practice. Sometimes,
Absolutely.
sometimes I have to improve my feelings vocabulary to figure
Right.
those things out. And then what we're going to do is we're going to walk back in and share our feelings. And I
Yes.
love that the triggered. I will include that in in the link. I'll probably have it on my website. I'll have a little handout from Jodie if
Sure.
Jodie doesn't mind.
Yeah, sounds great.
Okay. And so everybody, you could go to my website. You can go to thecode4couples.com/podcast. And I will have that available for y'all. Cause she has some great phrases that she used that, there's no shame in your game if you pull out that script.
Amen,
There's
sister.
just not.
Yes. Especially when you're in fight, flight, or freeze, you do not have the capacity to connect with your frontal cortex and think, what was that phrase again? If you need to post it on your fridge, do that so that you have easy access to it, because you cannot physically, it is impossible physically to think when you feel those strong emotions, because that's not where you are in your brain.
Exactly. I love that you're talking all the brain stuff, because I talked about brain stuff too, and people are like, oh, Cindy's not full of crap. There really is some brain stuff.
It is totally it's a thing. It's a thing. It's a real thing.
Oh my gosh. This has been great. I know that I missed the last part there. Empathy. Empathy is always important. One of the things that I emphasize over and over again is you have to be able to stand in your partner's shoes. You have to be able to see the view from their side. It doesn't mean that they're right. It just means like that's their view, and you have to have empathy. You might have a totally different opinion about what's going on, but see the world through their eyes. And that's kind of that last step that helps to heal things, it sounds like.
Well, and I think something that's really important is being responsive and attuned to your partner is the key to secure attachment. And you want me to say it again?
Yes, say that again.
Being responsive and attuned to your partner is the key to building that secure attachment.
That will be the quote on social media when this goes out. Okay.
Woo-hoo, all right. Better give me credit for it.
Oh, it will. It'll say Dr. Jodie Elder underneath there.
So basically the attunement is, I hear you, I see you, I'm with you in this. I'm connected to you. I mean, we just need that connection. And here's the key, I think, that happens in couples too, is that, and I'm going to be stereotypical here, but stereotypically men are the fixers. They want to make it better. So I'll tell you a key to attachment.
It's also first responders. They all want to fix things.
Right, because they're the
wired to fix.
Yes, they're the rescuer hero. Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yes. So here's what happens though. You're coming to them with some strong feeling, and you're getting vulnerable and sharing it with them. And they come at you with a solution.
Mm-hmm.
So when you are coming at someone and sharing these emotions and they respond on an intellectual level, it registers in your brain as abandonment, because they have not responded with an emotional connection. So what is hard for men to get, it's so hard, is I just need you to sit in this puddle of emotion with me and not try to make it better. That is what I need from you right now. And that is so against everything that's ingrained in them. But if as a couple, you can do that with each other, then you're attuned, you're responsive, you're connected, and you're secure.
Oh my gosh. Jodie, you are amazing. All this information, like I know we did like the down and dirty, and I was like, what are your 5 points? I know we could sit and talk for hours. I know you do some amazing workshops out there. And I know, so Jodie does some workshops that are about strengthening your connections, not just with your partner, but she also focuses on children too. So she does relationships and parenting. She talks about skills and connection, and she does workshops and presentations. And she is an amazing speaker. You think like we're similar. There's a reason why Jodie and I are friends. We have similar humors, and yes, if you enjoy me, you will enjoy Jodie too. So anything else that you want to, if people want to get a hold of you, how do you want them to get a hold of you?
Probably email is best by reaching out, and it's just my name. It's Jodie, Jodie _ Elder, ELDER @hotmail.com. Simple.
So if you are looking for somebody to do some presentation, if you are thinking that Jodie, like, oh my gosh, this girl is amazing, we need to bring her in and talk about some parenting stuff, and we'll do that some other time, because parenting is a whole other issue with kids and the anxiety and some of the things that they experience. But Jodie is available for speaking. And Jodie, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Hopefully it's been some helpful info.
Oh, heck yeah. And everybody else, thanks for listening. Take some of those words that some of those quotes that I'm going to be throwing out on social media. And until next time, everybody, keep it Code 4.